Should we just meander for another 7 minutes?
Somebody tell a joke.
My jokes are so funny. HR want to hear them.
We know you. We know your stories.
I'm not going there. I'm not going there.
Well, I've got a couple, mostly from James, but I'll go. You know the one about why was the baker's hands brown? Because he was needing a jobby.
Oh man!
A guy went to the zoo. There was only one animal in it. It was a dog. It was a Shih Tzu.
Oh god!
That's brilliant. That's great. And even better would be if you were dressed up as a jobby when delivering these.
Yeah.
on Halloween.
That'd be a brilliant costume,
wouldn't it?
A big jobby,
a big shite,
but not an emoji shaped jobby. You know, not that obvious.
No. A realistic paper mache one.
Like one exactly the same shape as Dura. One of those jobbies, right?
Well, I like it though. And if you wanted, if it was a group of mates, you could all be different types of jobbies. So you could be, when you've got that angry shite that hurts on the way out.
Who's the skitter? Though? That's the problem. Who's the skitter? How do you dress up as a skitter?
And then you have someone dressed as a ghost, and they're the ghosty.
This is gold. I can't use it in the podcast. I mean, none of it. But
at this definitely
no.
This could be the Christmas reel, the bloopers reel. Right. To your throats. Gordon, you want to get one out?
Not quite yet.
Maybe not my best segue from...
Which one do you want?
You do it on command.
Right. Actually, we'll do this. This will be my hint. Alright, we're good? 3, 2, 1. Hello, Dramfacers. Welcome to the Dramface podcast. This is episode 33. I'm not going to give you the title yet. I want to test the guests on today's podcast. My name's Greg McWee. As always, I am joined by Rob Roy and Gordo. How are we all?
Hello.
Fantastic. Good to see you.
See, with an emphasis on C.
Yeah.
Aye.
What a revelation, boys. Who'd have thought?
I know.
The comments were pretty special.
But I don't know who it was that predicted it. I think it was you, Gregor, that suggested if we do it once, we might not get away with not. We have to continue doing it if we do it once, the video thing. So it looks like we're stuck with that now. Maybe.
I need to get some new lights. Nice.
All right, so to the theme today, for those that listened to one where Martin came in to the conversation, but I want to read 2 lines from a poem. Seeing as Roy,
poem corner. Here we go.
Lovely.
as Roy, delivered some moving words in one of the pods just recently. It's only 2 lines, but it's where my mind went for the title of this. And it goes, 2 roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less travelled by. What's the poem? Anyone?
Pass. Sure.
It was a poem by Robert Frost, The Road Not Taken. But the theme for tonight, or the name of today's podcast, is The Road Less Travelled. And it's all things whiskey travelling. What do we think of that?
Magic. Have we not done an episode called The Road's Less Travelled?
Did we? I've only got 3 ideas, and they just come around until they land.
Maybe not.
Right.
Maybe not.
In that case, this I don't know then.
Just
Whiskey
a poetry episode.
I think it's fine. It doesn't matter. This is just episode 33, The Road Less Travelled. And I might be making it up. It might be a Dramface article or something else. So.
Well, I'm pretty stoked because this is a great excuse to open a few new bottles. So
A few.
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
Aye.
You go to the brief. The brief for today's dram was a dram that evokes or speaks to one of your whiskey journeys, literally, or a distillery you've visited. So something that pertains to that. So Rob, seeing as you were so impassioned, where did your mind go when you got that brief?
Well, I think it's sort of very clear that I'm very new to this. I'm still quite green with whiskey, and I mean, hit the ground running, thrown in the deep end, definitely. But it wasn't. I mean, it feels really recent actually, looking at the date fill label. But first whiskey trip was coming home from a trip up to see some friends in Dundee, and I convinced the missus that, well, we're already driving past it. Can we just stop in? And at that time, it was again, in my early days, but this was my favourite distillery, and it was Deanston. And this was perfect. And it's that fact I could get these tiny little bottles. I actually got two.
Yeah.
It's 2009 Oloroso and a 1997 Pedro Jimenez. And especially that early on in my whiskey journey, to go to my favourite distillery. Unfortunately, with a mask on, which is a bit of a downer when going into the warehouse the first time. Yeah. Not really having that visceral kind of like, as I'd heard from other people, it's smack you in the face sort of experience. But being able to sit in the warehouse the first time, and obviously I was actually on my own. It was actually a really cool experience. It was just me and the guy, and it kind of got a very cool like one-to-one kind of tour. Unfortunately, just of the warehouse because obviously it was COVID, or just after. But yeah, and these are the two bottles I picked up, and I think it's actually, just to diverge a little bit, I think it's actually quite appropriate that I was able to pick up these bottles because this is something I've been advocating for more personally, especially in this time where money's tight. These need to exist more. And I know Cadenhead's doing it now. They're doing 20 centiliter bottles. Actually, more and more, you can get half-size bottles as well. And so, yeah, this is a great excuse to finally get these open. Even if they are small, the idea of burning through this quicker than a full bottle always scared me. So, yeah.
So it's a Deanston, and are you opening it? Or are we just going to...
Yeah.
Are we going to...
Oh, God,
okay.
yeah.
Okay. I thought we were just going to look at it.
No. No. I've been saving this for, this is 2021, so it's been.
But isn't that a thing though? It's quite a special bottle now, right? Even if it was fairly run of the mill, because you bought it there and you were there, there's an extra importance put on it or value on it.
Yep,
absolutely. And I think it was my first ever distillery, like favorite distillery, and it's been such a long time coming. I actually did. So I bought this one. I bought the Oloroso. I bought the PX, and I also bought a great prices, by the way. Great prices. I think they're really affordable because they had I think it was similar to Cadenhead's. They have age brackets with certain prices. So it was it was between I don't know, 6 and 12. It's such and such a price, and then it kind of broke up. So the 1997 one was the same price as this. I think it's 20. I think it was maybe oh god, maths. a X age Oloroso.
So I'm
excited to get into this.
One of those was a 1997.
Yes.
So that, if I'm right, that was in 2021, Rob, or 2022? 2021. So
23.
23 or 24 years.
Yeah.
And how much was it for a 20 CL?
Let me check the geek.
Oh, get the spreadsheet out.
Well, that's what I was going to say. So I bought a full bottle of a bourbon. That was my favorite. Out of the 3 barrels I got to try that evening, the bourbon was my favorite. And it also happened that it was the same year that I met my now fiance. So that is one of those ones that's now in deep storage that I can't open because it's almost like an anniversary bottle. But and it's a good excuse. It's a good excuse to kind of side it away because it's, again, I get very easily scared about opening a bottle that I've left for so long, and it gets put up on a pedestal.
Yeah.
And you kind of get terrified about opening it and it not living up to it. So
I don't have that problem. I just open everything. Nothing sentimental to me.
Right, here we go. So there's a 2009 Oloroso, £45, 1997 Pedro Jimenez for £45.
Wow.
Wow. Why?
So,
Why?
mhm.
That's nuts, isn't it?
It's
Wait,
incredible.
45 for a 20 cl.
Yes.
God, we'll do the math. What's a full bottle cost at that?
£4 million.
That's a bargain, Rob.
Well,
Why did you
I
only
think that's
buy
pretty
one?
good. Yep.
I know. Well, I bought the full size. I remember the full size bourbon 2008. That was £100.
I think we're at £152.50, but I'm terrible at maths. So.
So somewhere between 150 and 4 million is... Or,
no.
But as I say, it was very similar to how Cadenheads does it, where it has brackets for prices.
Springbank
So
did as
even
well,
though
the cage bottles.
Sorry, the cage balls, yeah.
Oh.
Sorry, not Cadenheads. Yeah, Springbank. So yeah, it probably was a really good price, but it was probably, again, that early May journey, a bit too pricey for me. But spending £45 on this, even though it's such a small bottle, or smaller bottle, I thought it was a really good value. So yeah.
Yeah, and better than buying 3 at £152.50, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And what do we think? What do we think, Rob? How's it nosing? Should we come back to you? Should we give you some time with it?
Yes, please. That is.
Okay.
I might just go quiet for a second.
That's fair. Well, that's even more awkward
shit.
for a video podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Rob. We'll give you
really-
a minute. Everybody, just give Rob a minute.
And say
It's
he's
fun.
very.
You could just leave it,
Aye.
locked on Rob for this. Just have all the
Exactly.
rest of this
This is
Oh.
the unedited section, yeah.
yeah.
No, I'm joking.
It's
Nice one. We'll come back to you. Rob. Don't worry. Gordo,
thanks.
you didn't have to reach far when you were throwing the brief 2.5 minutes before going live. What did you reach for?
Well, I've got a wee sample here from one of the Dramface team, which I happened to try when I was down in the Lowlands on Tuesday to see my uncle. And I put it on the Instahoot and said, wow, this is brilliant. And then this Dramface writer contacted me and said, that's the same as the sample I sent you. And I hadn't connected the two. And so I've got this in my glass tonight, a wee sample. And it's a Fragrant Drops Secret in brackets peated Orkney 10-year-old Bordeaux Barrique 64.1, a big boy. But I really enjoyed it, and so I was down at Diggers cutting it up, and it was great. And this was one of the standout drams of the session, because it's Highland Park, isn't it?
I was going to say, aye.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't really had that much Highland Park, and the Highland Park that I've had has been kind of 46% or so. To have this kind of peated red wine thing going on, it's big stuff. 64.1 is big.
Yep.
But I think we were like 4 or 5 in by the time I tried this in Diggers. So I'm taking wee notes down here, and I'll come back to you on how it is. But so far, it's pretty excellent. And I've also opened tonight a wee auction win I won. Which is my second bottle of this. It's a Glengarry.
Oh, nice.
Odense. So it's a Cadenheads. They released a bunch of these for their shops. And this is the Odense shop. Is the Odense shop still around? Have they closed that?
I think the shop might still be going, but it's not Cadenheads anymore.
Ah, right, okay.
I think.
Yeah, well,
or it's maybe shut.
Well, I got the first one of these off auction, and I saw it. This was the one that I got in trouble for not paying for, because I just threw in a low ball and then forgot that I'd thrown in a low ball, and then I got emails saying, "Are you going to pay for this bottle of whiskey that you've won?"
Oh wow!
So I got it sent to me,
and that's the very bottle. This is
the one, and I popped it, and it is already in my lane.
Is it uncouth of me to ask what is lowball? What did you
I
win
put
it
in
for?
a low ball of £45.
Very good.
Oh wow.
For a 10-year 60% or
55.1.
55.1.
55.1, 10-year-old one
Looks like-
of...
I was just going to say, it looks like it's had a wee lick of sherry, no?
It's a Bordeaux.
Oh, that's
not-
the Bordeaux.
No,
Bordeaux
guys,
was the other
everybody calm down a bit, right?
I was keeping up.
Sorry, the sample's the Bordeaux.
This wee dinky one here is the Bordeaux.
I was sleeping.
Yes, this one is a Bourbs with Fino Sherry Hogshead since 2019. So that's 2 years in Fino.
Telling you.
Warm
Sherry
honey.
makes- Oh, sorry, carry on.
Sugar syrup, cranberries on the nose. Palate is dry, marzipan, cinnamon pastry. Finish is dried apricots, desiccated coconut, and black currants.
Oh wow.
Tell you.
Telling you.
Sherry is like the bacon and garlic of the food world. It makes anything better.
Well, since Scotty isn't here, I will defend that maybe it overwhelms a little bit too much, but also you can't deny that it tastes fantastic.
Yeah.
Maybe we find out about what sherry can and can't do in a future podcast episode. Good stuff, Gordo. I love that the brief was just a dram and you double fisted it.
That's how I roll.
Any opportunity,
Yeah.
double fist it. With that segue, Roy, what did your fists reach out for when I asked?
Well, true to form, I didn't get the memo.
Fair.
I even messaged in the group chat and I said, "Is there anything?" You said, "No, nothing. Just turn up." And there's prep required for the second session, but not the first session. So I was like, "Oh, cool." However, I can twist it into something.
He did message a minute before we went live.
Yeah, it's been a
That's why
busy
you've
week.
not seen it. You've not seen it.
It's been a busy week.
It's Gregor's fault.
Oh, that was me. It was me that messaged a minute before. That's fair. I'll take it.
Yeah.
Oh, so there has literally. Oh my god.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Sorry, that's
So
mine.
I haven't even read the message. See, I thought it was me being my usual, reading it and then just instantly forgetting it, like every Homer Simpson ever. Can you grab a dram that represents a whiskey trip you've taken? Okay, good. Yes, I can. I did.
Yes, I did.
Yes.
It's not like there's 400 bottles behind you anyway. You just reach and grab.
That's right. The first distillery I ever visited, first Scottish distillery I ever visited. The first distillery I ever visited was actually Bushmills, Northern Ireland in the 90s.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I didn't take a tour or anything, but went to see the distillery. But the first distillery was the year 2000, and some American pals were over from New York, and we took them on a wee tour of the Highlands, as you do, and we stayed in Glenallachie.
Oh, lovely.
Aye, and then we nipped over the Skye Bridge, and we took a wee tour. And
Over the sea to Skye?
Yes. Now, back then, there was only one distillery on Skye, so we nipped up and we just walked in and we timed it well for a tour. We said, "Will we take a tour?" And we took a wee tour around Talisker Distillery in the year 2000. And it was a perfunctory wee tour, as these things tended to be. And we got a wee dram of their 10-year-old. And I thought it was poison. I just thought, no, how can anybody drink this? This is torture. And it was only 43. No, Talisker would be 45.8%, wouldn't it? The 10-year-old.
Even back then?
Yes, aye. It's always been. So, there wasn't an 18-year-old out at that time or anything, just a 10. But my American buddy, he fell in love with it, like head over heels. He bought a bottle there and then, and I think it was extortionate. I think it was like $18.99 or something like that, right? And he bought a bottle and he took it. He said, I'd heard from him since. Sadly, I'm not in touch with the fella now, but because we were friends with the girl and they divorced. It's the common story, isn't it? Anyway, but I'd heard from him years later that he was converting people back home in New York into enjoying single malt whiskey. through that visit, that tour. So I'm hoping that I can bump into him one day in the future, and he's a total whiskey nerd, right? A total geek. That would be amazing. Anyway, we took the wee tour around Talisker, and it was one of the distilleries that, for me, even when I fell head over heels in love with whiskey, Talisker was late for me to fall in love with. It wasn't until the 2018 release of the 8-year-old. Does anybody remember the 8-year-old? It was the one that they did in rechar bourbon barrels, and it was an absolute stoter. Gorgeous stuff. I've got one over there, I can grab it. But they've had a couple of 8-year-olds out in the special releases since, and I've bought every one of them, and they've always let me down. And the one I've got here tonight, I just opened it before we went live, is the brand new 2024 Talisker special releases.
Somebody's bought one.
I know.
Well, Diageo's been boycotted with a soft beef by me for a while, especially Talisker. But doing what I do, if you can't critique something unless you're actively trying it, right? And this was, I believe it to be the lowest cost, the lowest point of entry for anybody to enjoy the special releases in 2024. I think the Talisker is the cheapest one. And there was a wee discount offer going with a wee discount code, and I went for it, and I picked it up. I think it was about 80 quid I paid. So we've got an 8-year-old Talisker with an interesting cask treatment on it. It's natural cask strength, of course, at 58.7%. But what they've done with this, for the casks they've used to finish this in, is that they have filled them full of stones and tumbled them.
Stones?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, let me see. I've got the tube here.
See what?
Yeah. I'll try. Okay.
Somebody just kicked some gravel into the barrel and was like, fuck it.
For this 8-year-old expression, plunge into oceanic wilderness. A world of flavour lies beneath that signature maritime smoke. Experience the underlying notes unleashed by stone-spun casks.
All right.
Okay, I don't know if it's actually going to tell us or if it's just going to give us nonsense. Like a tidal churn, the barrel's original char layers are polished away by rocks and water, then lightly retoasted, allowing fruity and vanilla characters to rise up freely. Selected from whiskies of rumbling smoke, underlying flavours pierce through, waves of pear, apple emerge, buzz. Okay.
I'd love to find out they've just romanced sandblasting.
Yeah.
Yep.
It sounds like a
Thousands
SDR
of
cask.
thousands of little rocks rolled down this charred wood.
Yeah.
You sandblasted it. You walloper. It's funny, Roy, as you were talking the price there of Talisker, Gordo's eyes were fluttering. I think he was trying to divide 4 million by 185 and get to a number.
Maths. I couldn't do it.
Have we touched on the fact that Talisker is about to be no more?
Not yet.
Well,
no.
we don't know. We don't know that that's the case. That it's under application.
It's been threatened.
Yeah.
But full knockdown, right? Because I think those people at first murmurs were like, "Oh, they're going to make it more sustainable," and then I think it was you, Gordo's kind of knock it down.
They're going to build the new one first, and then knock the old one down.
Right.
Oh, right.
Yeah. 200 years of history and legacy. Just raise it to the ground.
Haven't they just redone it as well? Haven't they just done all the
The
visitor
visitor centre.
Yep.
Yeah. With like Clonleash and that. They all redid it all, didn't they?
Aye.
I've got a prediction for you.
Okay.
Such a beautiful just sitting as well.
The arse has just dropped out of China in the last year. There's going to be a lot of future investment programs that'll hit the buffers for a while. And I suspect a program such as that might be one of them, especially when they don't even have planning for it. As I understand it, they don't have planning, right? It's an application for.
They've basically sent up a flare.
Yeah.
To just kind of gauge the warmth of the water, to mix metaphors.
Yeah.
And everyone's went, sorry, what? They've said they're going to do a public consultation for locals to get up in arms, but read the room, There's nothing positive being said about it.
Hang on. I wonder what the temperature of that water is. Why don't you set off a flare to find out?
Listen,
Or just stick your hand in there. Tell me. No? I mean, I know you acknowledge you mixed metaphors, but they didn't really come together.
well, it's like we're sending this up into the air to say, right, we're going to do something, and then let's put the fingers in the water.
Right.
It's a bit cold actually,
Yeah.
because the flare has dropped into the water by that point. You see,
Okay.
So
So
they
maybe-
expect to warm it up.
they're recovering the flare and go, oh yeah, it's really cold.
There we are.
Now
There
you've
we
got
go.
away
We
with
got
words,
there.
big guy. Doogie Crystal can rest in peace tonight.
We got there. I'm just busting your balls.
Yeah.
I had a couple of notes there on Highland Park. You touched on, Gordon. Have you been? Have you
To
visited?
Orkney?
Yes.
No. Emma's old man has been to Orkney on work trip and brought me back a scapa for my Christmas
Okay.
last year, but I've not been myself.
Okay.
I would like to go.
It should be on the list. It's a ways to go, but I know it'll be a minute also before it's opening its doors again.
Well, I would love to go via 8 Doors because I really fancy seeing Ryan up there and seeing what he's doing. So I might do a kind of double dunter.
Mm.
Well,
I thought
there's other reasons to go to Orkney now. A brand new visitor centre at Scapa, a brand new distillery called Orkney Distillery, and a brand new distillery called Dearness Distillery. 4 Orkney distilleries. Aye.
Very good.
Highland
Yeah.
Park is still closed, but it'll be
Close to
reopened.
visitors.
They're going through a whole refurb, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I think it's still going on. I'm not sure.
As can be seen by their new rebranding.
Well, that was where I was about to go.
Oh boy.
Well, I'll come in with the personal story there. I only just found out about that. Who was it? Who was talking about it? Someone was talking about it. No, the internet was talking about it. And they put up the new bottle of the 15, and I've got quite a special attachment to the 15 because I think I caught the tail end of a few dusty bottles in the Pacific Northwest, and I love that dram. It's magnificent. The first release or the original, right, with the glass.
That's interesting that you would like that. Wow.
Well, for me, that is your sweet spot of peat influence. I think it's magical.
Quiet.
And I think that's one where the peat creates magic rather than dominate. But all to say, I had a special relationship with the 15, and then I think I'm down to my last bottle, might be unopened. And I was like, well, I'm going to have to hold on to this. And then I think it might have been you, Roy. You might have had a hot line on, it's coming back eventually. And then it came back in the ceramic,
Yes.
off white. And I had mixed feelings about that bottle. So I kind of compartmentalized that and left it alone. And then I find out they're rebranding again, and that's going. And such is my way. I was triggered, and I went out and bought one yesterday. I was like, well, I need to get one of those before that disappears. I do remember the juice. I did a comparison on AB once, and there was a definite depth and age deeper than the 15 years of the original. It tasted way beyond its years.
Yeah.
But I just thought it was quite funny that I was mixed about the bottle, and then not until it's getting taken away do I go and buy one.
Yeah.
Did you manage to get the ceramic one? Or did you get the ceramic and they did the glass, didn't they? And then
the glass, I think they've only just announced this glass rebrand.
No, they released the 15 with the ceramic, and then they did a glass one, and now they've done the rebranded glass one.
Oh, all right. I didn't know that there was an in-between there. Okay.
Yeah. I think it was just because it was like the initial launch. They did like the
okay
classic the classic whiskey bottle. But isn't there a problem with like ceramic bottles? Like, well, isn't ceramic porous, or is it?
Not if it's glazed, surely.
Sorry, yeah, of course, but yeah, I don't know. It's just I felt there was something in that there was. It's not.
There'll be some conspiracy theory going on. Oh, don't touch that. It seeps.
Well, my plan was to keep the bottle forevermore because I do think it's actually a cracker now that I look at it.
Oh,
it's a great looking bottle.
Turned.
What do we think of the rebrand, though?
I like the top half.
Love the t-shirt,
Don't-
hate the trousers.
But yeah, I think it feels naked underneath the label. I think the rebrands. Now I've seen somebody hold it. I haven't held it in my own hands, but now I've seen like out of like studio lighting and like in real life. I think it looks quite nice. I think like I didn't realize there's so much texture in like the. I feel like I should be on the Jeff pub doing branding, but the texture of the label it looks really nice. But I just feel like I liked that. I mean, I've already said I'm quite new to whiskey.
Tramp stamp.
Just a little something on the front. Just I know it's got obviously the Highland Park, the H, but I just don't know. I just something extra. But
I've never had a bottle of Highland Park. Is it totally opaque? You can't see through it.
No,
it's clear.
no. Yeah,
No,
clear.
the new one, the old one, the kind of Norse black thing. Is it totally you can't see through it?
No, they've had black bottles that were opaque, but only a few.
All right, okay.
so it's like it's practically completely covered. But now in the new one, they've just kept this H, but everything else is clear.
Actually, that's quite busy when you see it compared to the new one.
I quite like it.
I think I don't know, it's a wee bit more generic now, Highland Park. It's like, here's a wee whisper of character.
I mean, to be honest, Greg, I think that's the key word, isn't it, really, for everything recently? Generic.
Yeah.
Glendronach. I mean, it's got, pretty colours, I guess, for Glendronach. Same for Glenallachie. I just think it's just so...
It's oversimplified.
Yeah. Death by simplification.
I guess
lost so much.
It was Pete that was talking about it being the theme being debranding is a trend, right? It's to become more subtle in things. I'll be honest, I've been quiet on the Highland Park rebranding because I actually quite liked it, and it was quite jarring when everybody came out going, "Wow, this is a mess."
I quite like it too, I have to say.
And I thought it was just a wee bit more kind of elegant and
refined.
A wee bit more kind of mature and just kind of matter of fact and confident, right? Rather than kind of trying to be all wah and edgy and things. And I know that there is a trend, right, to kind of debrand and simplifying things. But it's nice that you picked up, Rob, that when you held it in your hand, you were able to, or you saw it held in someone's hand, maybe, that you were able to pick up more detail and texture and depth to it and all that. And it's tend to. What we should do is kind of wait till we see it in the flesh. That new Glenallachie branding, I was just not impressed by that at all. And then I picked it up on the shelf in the Good Spirits Company next to the branding it was replacing, and it was night and day. It was so much nicer on the shelf, yeah.
Well, I mean, papyrus is
universally
hated.
That's right. Yeah, and it was close to papyrus, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It was almost like a cross between bamboo sticks and papyrus.
Flintstones.
Yeah. And but the newer one did have kind of just ever so slight touches of detail, and metallic, and it was just a wee bit nicer in the flesh. But we never learn from these things, right? We know, and Rob and I have been in branding for a while in the past, and you as well, Gordon, of course. Oh, my goodness, all four of us here are actually heavy into branding in our. So we know the emotion that's involved when people see something for the first time.
Yep.
And they're reacting to it based on what their expectations might have been or what they might have prepared or something like that.
And what they see on the internet.
Yeah, and they don't ever give it time to just be its thing and to take on its thing. And one of the things that really tired me about marketing and being in marketing meetings, and I was in a company where I was the marketing bod who was not trained in any way at all, just learning on the job kind of gig. But I was always in the room with professionals, and they were always very impressive, and they had all the best new presentations, or stacks as they called them, right? They would throw them up, and everybody would be like, "Yeah, I want that thing that you've just shown me. I want that. It looks amazing. I want that." And then you go to 6 of these and you realize that every single one is the same with different colors, right? And it's just all they're always cutting through the noise. It's always bleeding edge and leading edge, and it's always like better, faster, harder, stronger, sounding like a turntable whiskey now, right?
That's right.
You know, the marketers are always kind of, we've got to shake it up. We've got to do this. We've got to do the next thing. I got sick of it because there was never anybody standing up and saying, we don't need to mess this up too much. You're doing good things. We just need to evolve it a wee bit. We just need to be appropriate. We need to get balance. There was never anybody stood up in any of these meetings and said, let's just bring a nice bit of harmony and balance to this stuff. Yeah, this is good. You've got a good brand. You've got a strong brand already, right? Never happened. And I suspect that there might be a wee bit of that happening in whiskey. So when something comes along, like that Highland Park thing, I look at it and go, there's a bit of maturity about that. And I'll wait until I've got a bottle in my hand. I'm not sure that I'm actually going to buy a bottle right now, because unfortunately the thing that makes it easy for everyone to criticise the branding is that I think the best example is their 18-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
It's £140.
Oosh.
Sorry, that's a 43% whiskey, Edrington. What are you thinking about? We can go to Bruichladdich and pick up their 18-year-old for 150 at 50. No, it was 48%. 40. You can't remember the ABV. And it was just glorious, glorious liquid. I hope you're confident that you can compete with that. I suspect not.
No.
Well, enough about what you all are drinking. What are you drinking, Gregor? Oh, thanks for asking. Thanks for asking.
Tell us your wee story, big guy. Tell us your wee story.
Well, I do want to get around to giving Martin and the listeners some value adds or value around the theme and the question. And I'll replay it because I realise we didn't play the question. We'll replay it for those that are joining this midway through the question. But my answer to the brief of grabbing a whiskey that represents one of our whiskey trips or similar, as we talked, it was a last minute ask and a last minute dash. So I ran down to the bunker and I was like, I know I've got some from that trip, from my 2-weeker, the Monumental. And to the earlier point, I've put too much importance on some of them now that I was like, I'm not ready to open. I can't open that.
Yeah.
I was going to open that with Brody when he's and then so I was first of all I was like, okay, and then I saw a Balblair and I remembered I did a Fill Your Own when I was at Balblair, so I grabbed that and I was going to open that, but then I looked at the label and I realised nowhere on the label did they talk about the cask, even at your Fill Your Own. Now, someone at the distillery had written a few notes about the whiskey, but nowhere on quick reading anyway could I see. So I thought there's no value add there. It's just I would just be like, yeah, it's a brown whiskey. So I put it back. And I grabbed the bottle. Again. I'll go down and see if I can find the actual cask. So I grabbed one that was open. Pop quiz. If you go to the distillery that I have been to, you would potentially see Towser.
Right, I'm not going to answer because it's no popular when I know.
That's fair. That's fair.
Towser.
Yeah, you might meet Towser.
Who's Towser?
Towser's got a tail.
What's that? What's Roy doing? What's that?
Glenturret?
Hey.
Is that like
Ooh.
Sorry, Rob. Sorry, Gordon. You were trying to play along. So this was the 2022 12-year sherried.
Mm-hmm.
I did not get on with this, and I
so
think
we see.
I'm still.
There's a leak.
But I was really excited about it because it was the classic, like I'm learning about it through Roy and when he was waxing lyrical about it when it was first coming back, right? It was coming back out.
It was the maiden release.
Yeah.
I was going to ask, have you tried the maiden release?
No, because this is near.
Right. That's one I've opened and been terrified to finish, so I shall bring you a big scoosh.
Oh, well, that's very generous.
What's your take on the maiden release, Bob?
I think it's the best one, personally.
It's astonishing. It's
old. It really is.
It's old school sherry whiskey.
Yeah.
I had a full bottle and I shared it at the a milestone tasting in Paisley a couple of weeks ago, and it got rinsed. So there's none left.
It was one of the bottles where, so obviously you read all these tasting notes and it's like, okay, I have no reference for this, and everyone says like European oak, and it's I just didn't really understand what that meant. I couldn't really put a finger on it.
Mm-hmm.
But comparing it, the 21, I've had the 2020, 2021, and 2022. Admittedly, 2022 was a sample, but I had them all next to each other, and I could taste the difference compared to the original. And I feel like now I understand, because I think there was more European oak in the first one than the one.
They actually used European oak in the advertising. They didn't ever at any point say exclusively 100% European oak, I suspect, because some of the casks might not have had such provenance, but they would have felt confident that the vast majority of the casks going in there would have been European oak. Whereas much more recent ones would have been more American white oak in the mix, which is still delicious, but the profile, the flavour profile is quite different.
Yeah, it's not unpleasant by any means. Gordon's right. You know, I've not been drinking it, but it's not had the same impact that I've expected. And I don't know what I expected hearing Roy liking it and talking about the sherry. You know, it's not your normal go-to. So anyway,
it's batch variation is becoming more and more of a thing, right? People are embracing, producers, distillers are embracing it more. But that means that us as consumers or people that are going to be reviewing and talking about, we need to dwell heavily on and clarify. And this is this batch. Your mileage may vary if you're on a different batch, especially these annual releases that are coming out. You know, it's not a difficult concept. Springbank can bring out the 12-year-old once or twice a year, and we expect it to be completely different and celebrate it. We're jazzed about that, right? Some of them we like more than others. So, you know, it's not fair to suggest that Glenturret should be the same every year, right, on their 12-year-old. So
I think it makes it exciting. And even if it might not be as good as the original, I still look at getting or trying the release that come after it. Say for any other bottle that doesn't, it's just like, oh, it's another Glenallachie 15 or whatever. I might have had the last Glenallachie 15 I had was like 3 years ago. But in my head, it's still, they're trying to get the same thing even now. And with the Glenturret, I know it's going to be different, and it's different casks, and they're kind of like proudly showing that. And
right, and the front of the label as well. On the front of the label,
absolutely.
It's not a common thing still.
No, and you're not wrong, Rob. We talked about our reference points, right? And the reality is you're following along the journey of the whiskey batches as well, and you know, some are up, down, up. It's all part of the journey. There's the segue right there, the journey. So let me replay the message, and again, apologies, it cuts off at the end. You only get a minute on the Dramaphone. And actually, one of the questions under the video, the YouTube, was about, hey, how do I leave? How do I get on that Dramaphone? And I thought it was open to everyone, but actually, it's a members only phone. For fear of trolling, for fear of all you trolls that would leave funny messages on the phone. Joking. But you can find the link in the members blog postings of the podcast. Correct, Roy?
Yes, exactly.
There we go. All right. All good. Let me get this up. Here we go. Hang on.
Hey, Dramface, Gregor and Roy, and anybody else who's listening. This is Martin Fielder in Texas. One question, or one thing I thought would be a good topic for an upcoming Dramface is, I know you guys have talked about visiting the festivals before, but what about just overall whiskey tourism in Scotland? From the traveler's mindset, how to set up a whiskey trip to Scotland, what things to consider, timing, which distilleries are visitor friendly, how to organize this, who should we use, et cetera, et cetera. I think a lot of your listeners would are planning or considering or.
And they were cut off because of the minute. Shush, Martin. So a great question all around. I think really, let's be inclusive as well. I think people coming from outside the UK, how best to plan and pitfalls. I think what I'd maybe suggest is to keep the wheels on the track. Maybe we compartmentalise the conversation around sort of pre-trip, right? Planning on the trip, and then post-trip. So let's band around, I think, all things pertaining to what you need to be doing and thinking about before you're on the trip and planning it.
So I've only been on 2 whiskey trips that like focused around distilleries. One was happenstance on the way back from going to Dundee, and the other one was going to Islay for the first time. And what was stressed to me, that was the most important thing, is bring an empty bag and a way of packaging the contents safely. And I think you can't really go wrong there, to be honest. I don't know what people, the little inflatable jackets for bottles.
Air sacks, yeah.
Yeah, the ones that you can inflate yourself. Yeah, I'd say that's vitally important for a whiskey trip.
I've got a tip. Just on the air sacks, which my uncle found out for some reason. I don't know how, but anyway, I saw them when I was staying over at his house. I saw them lying on the floor and I went, get some nappies to protect your bottles, because they're padded, they're self-adhesive, and you just wrap them around the bottle, and there's your packaging. Cheap. Thank you.
Plastic.
Nappies.
All right, here's a debate I never thought we would have.
I guess if they crack, they're going to get soaked into the nappies.
Why is that? Why is that better than the air sack, Gordo?
Because you can buy them in the shop. You don't have to inflate them. They're cheap. They're made of paper and farts rather than plastic. They're self-adhesive. You can get them in any country you're in.
Mm-hmm.
They're thin. You buy a bag of 15.
They've got wee pretty unicorns on the front.
Come in different colours.
Actually, that's a fair point. You'll know if it's leaked because the bunnies will be smiling in the graphic.
Oh,
and then you can soak the nappy.
And if there is a leak, it's not ruined all your t-shirts because the nappy's taking the brunt of it, presumably. Okay, I'm starting to come round to this. I must admit, when I first heard it, I thought that was a bizarro idea. I thought that was a bit batshit.
Try it.
I wonder though,
how many nappies for a bottle though?
Probably 2, what, top and tail, or if the big nappy's 1. I mean, you're protecting.
Oh, here we go.
Adult incontinence numbers.
Get some adults ones.
Yeah.
One. You need never leave the whiskey festival because
you're wearing one.
You're sorted.
Yeah.
And 2, it's 1 per bottle then. But well,
I've got a very famous story about adult incontinence underwear. Should you remind me at some point in the future, I'd be glad to tell you. It's a belter of a story.
Roy, do you have a story about adult incontinence? You need to stop.
This podcast doesn't need to get any longer.
Need to get something up.
It's taken us 40 minutes to get to the topic.
Aye.
But caveat, I've been searching for a Dramface podcast idea for the t-shirt or the t-shirt graphics or slogan, and I think right now front runner is Sook the Nappy. I think that might be that's the contender for this season so far.
I think it's a bit never mind.
Sook the Nappy. I don't know about that, Gordon, though, because
Why?
I'm pretty sure a nappy weighs more than an inflated bit of
It's
plastic.
not about weight, though, is it? It's about protection.
No, it is. No, because inclusivity for those that are jumping on a plane.
Oh, I don't care about you guys.
Crucial. No, if anything, listening.
How heavy is a nappy? How heavy is a nappy?
£4 million.
That's quite heavy, actually.
If I've learned anything from listening to the Colonial podcast, we definitely need to think inclusively and broadly when we're on this podcast.
Okay, please hold.
So think about those that are going on flights and need to think about the weight.
Google how
I love
is a nappy.
Pre-festival, post-festival.
Oh dear.
There we go. So I love it. These are good tips. But we've gone straight into. I mean, we're telling a lot about
specifics.
ourselves. We've gone straight into how do I get my bottles back. I think let's just zoom out and run through the user trip, right? Like, let's go macro to micro. I think what you need to first decide is what type of trip are you wanting? What do you want out of the trip? Do you want to be seeing as much as possible and it's about numbers, or is it about experience and quality of your experience? As a decision point, would that be first, Roy? Lost him today.
A nappy wears 44.6 grams compared to a plastic bag which weighs 22. So it's about twice as heavy as a nappy. So, I mean, it's...
In the chat, for those that can't see, that we've got a little side chat. We rarely ever use it. Well, I used it the most just previously when we had some tech malfunctions. But I've messaged, Gordon's Googling nappy weight, and Roy absolutely swerved my teed up question. I quit.
Sorry.
You're able to multitask. That's impressive. That's impressive, Gregor. It really is. Anyway, A, B, and C. A, accommodation. It's the only thing you need to stress about before you get here. Know where you're going to be staying. COVID made it much, much more difficult. It's starting to get a bit easier now. Accommodation has started to become a bit easier. But you need to book your accommodation first. So work out where you're going to be and work out what you want to stay in, all that kind of thing. B, balance. Don't think that you can do every single distillery in a region. Just pick one or two and then walk along a riverside and walk up a hill and walk around the neighbourhood, visit the towns and the villages and understand the significance of that distillery or whatever it may be, and take in the environment and stuff. The whiskey will mean a lot more to you, I think, rather than just tagging distilleries. And C, cash. You will spend more. You will. Bob has hit the nail on the head when the first thing he's thinking about is bring an empty case. But that wasn't a logistical thing. That is because he overspent, right? Right.
Oh yeah.
And it's because it's
painfully.
You just happen across whiskies and you convince yourself with every single one, I'm never going to be able to get this again. And you end up picking up and you forget what's in the boot of the car. You forget what you've taken back and already stashed in a suitcase. And then it comes to packing to get home again, and you've overspent, and you've got a logistical problem to get home.
That's D. Dodge the wife as you get through the door.
And again, you can't do that because you're traveling together. And she's like, "Why is this suitcase so bloody heavy?" And she's, "Oh, that's your gin."
But I think a good one on that, when you're thinking about your purchasing, a criteria that I use is don't even think about getting a core release or an OB. Think about the things you cannot get elsewhere, because that you can't really put a value on that.
Well, if the big weight onto the C then, because some things that you travel to reach are abhorrently expensive.
Yeah.
Totally. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying
so you need a lot of cash.
Blank checks. I'm not saying that. I agree. I would also say there's no excuse for someone charging over the odds at a distillery when someone's travelled all that way to come to you.
Here.
And you are exploiting it, for sure, right? But that's soapbox. We're trying to help people plan. Yeah. I think for sure you will never regret coming back with things you cannot get or you filled yourself. There's an attachment there. There's a value there. So I would just add that caveat to the.
As long as you've paid a fair price, yeah.
Aye.
And don't feel like because you're there you have to buy something either, because that's how they get you with those crazy prices. I mean, if you are coming from outside of the UK and you come to Scotland, you're going to have, assumedly, much more choice in terms of local spirit than you might do back home. So because you're going to the distillery doesn't mean you have to buy it at the distillery. I remember when we went to Islay, and one of the most exciting bottles I bought on that trip was from the wee little corner shop.
Brilliant.
In Beaumont. Was it a co-op?
Spar.
Spar, yeah.
Yeah, the local Spar is a whiskey shop. Yeah.
So,
You're spot on, and it doesn't need to be that kind of handful. It doesn't need to be that distillery exclusive that you might get bumped over the head for, right? It doesn't. It'll just be things that you happen upon, because if you're traveling from A to B, for instance, if you go over the Skye Bridge and you're heading up to Talisker, or I think you have to pass it to get to Torravik as well, Gordon, you can keep me right, but the wee Misty Bottle shop on the right.
The Misty Isle, eh?
Misty
Bottle, I beg your pardon.
Misty Bottle. So, you're going to come across, and if you're going through Inverary, you'll pass through a couple of shops in Inverary.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're stopping for a wee cup of tea or a wee rest or whatever it may be anyway, you're going to take a wee meander into these whiskey shops, and you'll still get bumped over the head.
Aye. Because
whiskey's expensive. But you might find wee gems that aren't too overpriced, and there's something and you will overaccumulate. Just know that you're going to probably spend a bit more, unless some people are really good. Some people are really disciplined, right? I'm not one of them. I always kind of end up forgetting what I've bought and buy a wee bit too much. But I'm always grateful. See, when I've recovered from a financial hemorrhage and it's a year later and the bottle's sitting there and you go, oh, you beauty. So, yeah. I think Martin wanted us to go into specifics. I think we could talk about how he gets around. We could talk about coaches. We could talk about the tour companies and these kind of contract guys that will take you around. We could talk about all of that, but I'll follow you because for me, coming to Scotland to do whiskey distillery tours is much more about coming to Scotland. It's to understand why these distilleries are here and what they do and what role they play and why they taste like they do and all of that kind of thing. It's to know much more than just the brand and the bottle and the label and your experience with it already. It's going to be a pilgrimage for you, but I think you're going to understand a lot more if you spend a wee bit of time doing the peripheral stuff, the stuff around the distillery.
Sorry to button.
Please button.
I'm buttoning. I think the biggest thing I would suggest to people visiting distilleries is be prepared to interact with the folk there, or do everything you can to interact with folk there, because that is where I have had the most enjoyment and takeaway, is speaking to the people. The whiskey's a whiskey, right? So what? It's the folk. It's always the people. And my fulfillment is coming away going, that was a great chat I had with that person. Or I gleaned so much more from that one guy than I could ever glean from a pamphlet or a board or a visitor centre. So get stuck into the people, because they're sitting there waiting for you to speak to them. Because they're interested and they're excited and they're proud and they want to talk to you about stuff.
Put a wee asterisk there. When we say get stuck into, what Gordon means...
Don't put the heat on, but just talk.
Connect with.
Yes.
I think I'll amplify this before I put it back on track onto the planning stages of the...
Sorry, beg your pardon. I just had to say
it. You're right. I think where it gets really meaningful is where you have those connections and you have honest conversations. And without being false about what I'm about to say, there's a huge unlock when kindred spirits see that they're kindred. When you see there's a deeper passion here than an American wanting to see a distillery, right? Like when you come across as impassioned and I live the whiskey, I love the whiskey. I think the sooner you can authentically convey that, right? Like not the first second, hi, I'm Janie, I love whiskey, I love it. But genuinely find the right time to insert that passion that is there. It connects and often can unlock. I'll say this as well though. There's nothing sadder than when you do try and do that and it's not there on the other side. Whether it's summer staff who are really just doing this for a job or whatever, right? So, but that's the pitfall of it. But I absolutely agree, Gordon. I think connecting with and it will give you a richer story when you come away. You'll be like, "Do I remember us? You remember speaking to that mash tun boy, and he was, like the real people."
Yeah, absolutely. It's
Yep.
the best. It's the best because you get the inside track if you're engaged, and people quickly open up when they realise that you're genuine and you're interested and you're engaged and that they want to talk to you.
Yeah. But zooming out again, back.
Sorry, I beg your
Just
pardon.
like we're starting to try and plan a trip. I do think all that Roy touched on, spot on. I think you need to decide. Is this the one? Is it a one trip only, or is this going to be one of many? So that you could decide how long can I give this? And I think when you come to your planning phase, I think you need to understand the time involved between what you're trying to do. Right, you're trying A to B to C. That's how I planned it. I was planning, right, well, I knew I wanted to go to this particular distillery and that one. And then I break it up, and I broke it up into chunks of travel time, and then what distilleries can I see in between them. So try and kind of find your fixed points and work between that. Again, what Gordo's saying and Roy often says is, but when you're doing that, allow space and time to be elastic and in the moment, and not be so hard on the scheduling and try and see too much. If you drop one off.
Yeah, definitely.
It's not like Whiskey Pokemon, is it? You're not trying to like just tick them all off. It's not like playing like bingo or like bird watching. Like you got to get them through them all. Like,
yeah,
the best thing about whiskey, and this gets said so often with festivals and like and going to the distilleries and trips and everything, it's the whiskey fades into the background, and it's the everything outside of those moments. I think is actually like, so the tour might be like an hour, maybe like 45 minutes, but like live in that moment, explore the area, like take a trip, walk around the place. Like it's not a case of like, right, get in, get out, get a bottle from the gift shop, and then like let's get to the next one.
Because most people are doing that. The people that you're on the tour with are just like, right, okay, that's cool. I'm not really into whiskey, and I had some spare time. If you're really like loving it, just take a couple of beats just to go, here I am.
Yeah.
And then speak to somebody.
Yeah. Hang about. And you end up speaking to people in between tours. And, it's kind of difficult because I always feel that, and I don't want to broad brush, but I'll broad brush for the sake of it. If you're near a high footfall distillery, one of these busy distilleries that's within spitting distance of a city, or on one of these kind of heavy traffic places, you might find that people are all a bit exhausted and things like that. There's a lot of maybe temporary staff, and some of them know about the stuff and often they don't. And that's okay, and it's understandable. I do wish distilleries put a wee bit more investment into those really crucial contact points. I really do, but it can be difficult. And over the last few years, I've come to realise just how difficult it is for anyone to find staff, especially in the remote areas. But the further away you go, the more remote you are, the more I feel there is almost like an opportunity for a bit of serendipity to kick in, and you have that relaxed chat with, the stillman out the back having a quiet cigarette while you're just kind of wandering around and looking at the draft trailer or whatever it might be, taking photos or that kind of stuff. It just seems to be the more kind of remote you are. If you're on Isla, there's a good chance that something like that's going to happen. If you're away out in the back end, imagine being up at Ardnamurchan, there's nothing. It's just a single track road for how many miles, Gordon? 20 miles or something?
Oh, something like that.
Right, and there's nothing, and you're there. You're just going to be kind of just kicking about for a bit and taking it all in, and you do end up just coming away going, oh, and maybe you didn't necessarily talk about their jobs or whatever, but it's going to the conversation is going to start off in a whiskey context of some variety, and you will feel a wee bit closer to the thing.
Do you know what is out there? Communities. And the communities are the things that you can tap into. They are the good stuff. And like Ardnamurchan, like Talisker, like Razzie, like all these places, they're locals. and you want to get chatting to them, and they'll start telling you about, oh, you should try this pub and you should try that pub, or maybe you should look at it, and you start getting into all the little bits and bobs that you can't find in your tour guides.
So and then when you're in that pub, you end up speaking to more staff that have come for the distillery.
Aye. So, it opens up doors. If you start speaking to folk at the distillery, you start opening up doors to other things to do around the area because they know the area. So there's benefits to all.
Yeah. I think,
were you there on Isla, Gregor, when we ended up spending a night in the Beaumont Hotel with Fraser Hughes?
No.
The distillery manager of Ardnahoe.
No.
You weren't there. Were you there, Rob?
No.
Oh,
A different trip.
But pray tell us about it and make us feel like we were there.
No, we'd been at Ardnahoe and they let us sip from the casks that we all managed to sip from when we were there.
Just like that.
Yeah. Oh no, it was.
No,
does anyone remember how good that whiskey was?
The Ardnahoe.
Yeah.
Yes, and I've not opened the release, but I'm hearing they're potentially worlds apart.
Worlds apart, absolutely. Yeah. But still, the quality's there, Gregor. That you're going to be. It's very peaty though. It's very smoky, so it's up to you.
Oh, good. Oh, good.
But we were in the Beaumont Hotel, and I know who I was there with now. Cousin Kevin, Big Craig Dollier, Willie Dollier, all of that. We're over there for Craig's 50th, and that very same night, in strides Fraser Hughes, and Kevin starts chatting to him in the bar next door. He brings him in, and we start buying him drinks, and we start buying him vodka and iron brew. That's what his drink is. He doesn't drink whiskey. He loves it. He absolutely adores it. But he doesn't. If he's out to relax, he's been working with whiskey all day, hasn't he? So he's out to relax at night. He just wants a wee vodka and iron brew and chat with his pals. But the conversation, the chat that we had with Fraser, superb, because it's not just Ardnahoe that Fraser's got. He's been at Beaumont and all over the place, right? He's a fantastic guy. Anyway, let's clip on for that one because I thought we were there together.
No. So we did we were touching on scheduling your trip, scheduling the stops. I remember you would kind of fire up the tour schedules, and that would influence your decision points, right? Because you're like, well, I can go to this distillery and do the thing at 10, but then the next spot, that one starts at 2, right? So there's a little bit of that. There's a little bit of schedule Jenga or schedule Tetris.
Yeah.
When we say that, though, as well, I think it's valid to point out, once you've done 1 or 2 tours, they're all the same. So please don't plan to just say, I want to tour all of them, tour the tours, because you'll be bored, quite honestly. You'll hear the same stuff after a while. Eventually, you're going to want a tasting tour or a deeper tour, right? So I would say pepper in some, have variants.
Things.
Yeah. And then I think, do you not think there's a value in even how you decide on which distilleries to go, right? You might have ones that you've got a connection with or you're interested in. I think there's, again, just a breadth. You should experience a breadth of distilleries, see some of the newer ones, right? Like I went to see Macallan and Tomatin in the same day and talk about polar opposites. And so I think you should also potentially, I think, not stick to the only ones that you like or you've got experience with, because you might build a new relationship with it if you've gone and visited it, right? If you don't know much about it, I think there's a strong reason for that.
Probably more reason to go.
Yeah.
I also think that certainly it used to be easy to say this. Now it's becoming a wee bit more difficult because everything's about price and money, and we're being gouged these days, absolutely being gouged now at the distilleries. But I always used to recommend that people premiumised, they upgraded. So instead of doing the standard tour, do the warehouse tour where you're actually sitting in the warehouse drawn from the cask. Far less time talking about the capacity of the mash tun, far more time sitting in a dank warehouse drawn from the cask. Great fun.
Yeah.
Chocolate pairings, things like that. Sounds a bit daft, sounds a bit fancy. Great fun. You tend to be sitting in a comfortable space, close to strangers. That's a different mix of people. as long as you're not paying too much, as Gregor said, once you've done one tour and you understand the building blocks of a distillery, that might not be what you want to continue doing for the rest of your trip, especially if you're traveling with a significant other that's far less into it than you are. For me, I actually love the tours because I do tend to take in all the wee details and nuggets and things, but that's because of me, who I am and what I do. But for a lot of folk, you're absolutely spot on, Gregor. They're just sick of hearing what the happy cows on the draft and all the nonsense, and we've talked about it before, but it does get a bit samey. Making whiskey is a very tightly regulated thing.
Yeah. So maybe again touching on how to decide on what to visit and what to see. I was going to forgo a distillery for the trade-off of going to Spey Cooperage, right? Because there's not where do you get to see the coopering aspect of it? So I would say that's a valuable thing. In the end, we kicked it out because we were going to Loch Lomond. We knew we were going to go to Loch Lomond, one of the few distilleries that has an active cooperage. But I think have a think about like the peripheral things to a distillery that are worth seeing.
Asterisk.
Oh.
There's no visitor centre at Loch Lomond.
Sorry.
Gregor get red carpeted at Loch Lomond.
Oh, apologies. Well, there's a question though. Is there any other distilleries that you've? I know Tomatin has a cooperage, but it's not necessarily always active.
Well, it's interesting. The other one, always a lot of people say it's a wee bit like a mini Loch Lomond, is Glasgow Distillery. They have a cooper. There aren't many. There are Tomatin. I think it's Balvenie, Glenfiddich, one of the Grant's distilleries, but not many. So I have yet to do the cooperage, Speyside cooperage tour. I think I need to do it. I think I need to make a point of doing it because I think it would just be a cool thing to see.
So I think that's a value add there. I think if the listeners or viewers are ever going up to Spey, they should consider that. I took a huge amount of joy in learning from watching the cooperage, right? And you realise the cask is such a big part of our whiskey that not until you're there facing it and you're seeing them work on it, it becomes richer.
Do you remember how violent that process was?
Oh, aye. Yeah. And
really?
There's, we're spiral, but there's such beauty in a master of their craft and watching someone who's physically done this thing so often. It's a dance.
Balletic.
It's a physical dance. Yeah. Exactly. It's brilliant. It's balletic with a mallet. It's contrast. But so I would just say, think about the peripherals. There are some amazing whiskey bars often attached to our destinations. So go as deep as you can on those hard points. So there you've planned your trip, or at least the main points. Maybe we touch on transport. I can't say I've ever gone near the thought of having someone either organise the trip or drive me around. But is that even a consideration? Is that a niche market? Do we know that exists? I know some people will put tours on, but
like whiskey
what
tours.
Does that look like? Yeah, you basically. I mean, I think they're quite expensive, but you basically have a driver. You have a bus that will drive the tour for days.
It's definitely it's a barrier to enjoyment if you have to drive yourself to somewhere, because then you can't do a tasting, you can't do a warehouse tasting, you can't do anything. You can only look about and get washback temperatures blasted at you. If you have a significant other who is game to drive you, after about half an hour, they're bored. So doing multiple things after that, forget about it. So you either have to have a willing participant who is happy to just doss about while you get your geek on, or you can rotate the drivers perhaps. So this day you're not driving and you are just getting the driver's drams, and then the next day you're in. So I don't know. I've never really done a trip because if I need to go somewhere, I'll just go. I don't have to plan it. So it's never really crossed my mind. But I can imagine the logistical side of doing this requires, if you really want to get the full experience, you've got to drink the whiskey at the place. having driver's drams is not ideal because you're not in that environment. You're not viscerally kind of connecting with the place. You're going, oh, that's lovely and it smells nice, but whatever, I'll try that when I get back to the hotel, where you don't have the smell of the casks and the angel share and the dampness and all that stuff that really contributes to that in the moment experience of holy moly, I love whiskey. You lose that if you're not drinking. So I don't really know what the answer is. Find a willing taxi driver.
Get your accommodation as close to the distilleries or distillery that you want to be at, and find ways. Maybe it's bus and walk, taxi, shared responsibilities. One day you need to take the hit so your buddy can enjoy. Next day it's the other way around. But in Scotland, in the UK generally it's true, but in Scotland, don't consider drink driving.
No way.
Don't do it.
I think I would maybe add in a couple things to that. I think you're right, Roy, that when you're planning your days to fully maximise the enjoyment of all parties, because Gordon's right, you're going to need multiple drivers so that you can off on.
Yeah.
But also plan in a way that your sort of late afternoon into the evening is your sort of highlight distillery, because then you can stop, you stay, you can fully enjoy it, right? And then plan that your stuff in between that is intermediary. It's
getting food in your face.
Aye, but maybe it's a less exciting distillery, and you're just sort of ticking the box. But my full blown is at 4 o'clock or the last tour.
The immersive experience.
Yeah.
That's why A out the ABC is accommodation.
Accommodation, aye.
You've got to nail that and well in advance. You get your pick of accommodation. You know exactly where you're going to be. That's the first thing that you do before you even book a flight. Get your accommodation locally.
Maybe super basic. Brace yourself, because we're talking about travelling around. Leanne, Scotch in the Bayou, often jokes or reminisces about what single lane roads are like in Scotland, which brace yourself for interesting driving. You're going to be slow sometimes, you're going to be in long lines of traffic, single lane, you might have to pull over every now and again. Just brace yourself for that. And then on that topic as well of the driving, go offline, download maps on your phone for your area, because there will be areas that your reception or your provider are going to screw with you. So when you've got good Wi-Fi, download all the maps you'll need on your phone, and then you're bulletproof in that respect.
It's funny. You do get this slow traffic and the traffic jams, and then the next minute you find yourself on a stretch of road, and you don't know how many miles it's been since you've seen another car. Right?
Yeah,
that's terrific.
And maybe as well, back to the thing about being elastic and malleable. Like, stop when you're driving. Stop when you want. Right? I remember driving through Speyside, and you see all the brown signs of like a distillery name or that, and you're like, oh, there's like, pull over, even if you're not going to go in. Like, stop, drive up, look, get back in the car and go. Right? Don't rush. I think.
Drink it in.
Aye.
Driving through Speyside is nuts, right?
Oh.
You're literally, there's so many signs, you're just like that.
Yeah. It's insane. Yeah. And then you realise, well, of course it's here. It's a town. It's the town name.
Yeah.
Is the
so
Keith you've planned your trip as best you can. You've planned how you're going to get about. You're here. I think we've touched on maybe the experiences and when you're there. Anything else while we're there and you're going through your trip?
If you're lucky, and if you are part of a really cool community, an online community, whatever it may be, and you can plan ahead to meet up, raise a glass with some jolly folk along the way, it's fun. It's really cool. You find yourself in Inverness, find yourself in Speyside or Edinburgh or wherever it is you're going to be. Just gamble a wee bit on the social side. I predict, that you know, I used to say 90% of the people in whiskey, but now I'm closer to saying 100% of the people in whiskey, right? Whiskey attracts good people. It's a pretty safe pursuit to meet with like-minded folks who would probably be dead excited to take you to the local hostelry or meet you at the local hostelry or whatever it may be. So yeah, use your online connections. I'm thinking of Aquaviti Barflies groups and things like that, whatever it may be. Your friends of Lefroy, your Daft Mill Facebook groups, your however it is. Hey guys, so excited to be coming to here. Anybody living nearby, and you know, you might only get one or two, might get none, but it's worth a try.
I think you're spot on as well, as like, and use that community that you're in to pose the question that Martin's done. Like, get quite granular when you're shaping up your plan.
Yeah.
You know, ask, hey, does anyone know the best hotel up this way or whichever? I think use the network you've got. Aye. So then we figured out you need some nappies for your bags.
Yep. 44 grams.
The bottle criteria.
Oh,
Martin
I was going to say, there's one thing about packing for Isla, and one thing that I completely didn't expect is the amount of glassware that you get given as well at tastings. If you're doing a big trip and you're doing a big whiskey trip, you might have to leave it at the hotel or wherever, or go to give it to a local whiskey bar or something. But I probably came back with more glasses than I did bottles, surprisingly.
And glasses are a wee bit tricky to pack as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Maybe get newborn nappies for glasses.
Or baby's mittens, maybe mittens. Do you know, as you touch on that though, Rob, it's funny. I don't know where we stand on. You know the little stunted glasses, tasting glasses you'll often get.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'll come away with them because I'm a frugal Scot, but I can't say I'm ever using them again.
Yeah,
I love them. I love them because you can do that. You can warm it up. Ooh, it's tactile. See this? You know, look how far away I am. You know, having that.
No, I don't like
even with a
having
Glencairn, you know, try to get into the. You know, if you're. Whereas those wee things, fingerprints all over it. Whoa. Ooh.
I hate that.
Loving it.
I hate fingerprints on it.
That's got to be
I hate
the thumbnail
fingerprints
for
too.
this podcast.
I hate fingerprints. That's why I have stemmed copitas.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Good stuff. Well, I think we've tried to extrapolate as much as we can out of the gang. I think it's tough.
The takeaway is nappies, bigger sacks, and cash.
That's about it. and don't be afraid to soak the nappy.
If you need to, soak the nappy.
That's not a good thing to put on a t-shirt. It's really not.
And then I've got the graphic on the back. Is this nappy with like dripping amber liquid from it? It's good, right?
Mm-hmm. I would wear that.
Good. Because I think we have touched on this a few times though, on planning trips and doing it. I think, please, if there are any like questions that we've not answered or burning ones that you would love, put it in the comments. And our editor, once he's done editing all of these videos, he will go in and reply to every comment, as is his commitment to the community. Well, cheers, lads. I think we should roll into I Am a Distillery.
Mm-hmm.
Who's doing it?
Was Gordon just sniffing vinegar? What was that little?
Who knows?
Let's get back on track. Normally, the second one's the one that's off the rails, but this
has been a messy one. Yeah.
No. Hands up if you've got an I Am a Distillery. Then I think Roy, because you won the last one.
Did he?
Before
I I think as well, if I'm a not very popular winner of I Am a Distillery, as it seems is the case, I think maybe I'd be okay with bringing them all the time, or bring a lot more of them.
No,
way.
I think
All right.
no, let's
all right.
no. We'll
I'll
keep
follow
it.
the boss. I'll follow the boss. You know the
And
drill.
actually, before we go into it, like we're all out of community sourced ones. Please, if you want to add one in, because then I can play along. Typically, hit me up. Message on time for a dram, all one word, at gmail.com. Or if you want the audio, if you're a member, leave it on the Dramaphone and we'll bring you into the pod that way. But maybe a bit on the format again. I Am a Distillery, 10 questions, all about a distillery, ranging from the most obscure all the way down to the most pointed. You get one chance to shoot your shot. Once you've shot it, you need to hod your whist. You need to be quiet and wait till the end, where all will be revealed. Roy.
Has anyone got their new copy of the?
No, I'm on last year's
No.
forts.
Oh, okay. And you don't need it. You don't need it.
I don't cheat
for this. What? No, you should be swatting in between recordings. Listen, but I think we need to remember as well that I think we put these together in the hope that people can participate as they listen along. But we take it quite seriously here as well, don't we?
You're damn right we do.
So I hope I've put together something that you guys have got a chance of getting. All right?
You're getting it if it's not.
Well, it's difficult for me to gauge how ignorant you all are. All right.
I beg your pardon, sir.
Jeez. Wow. Fighting words.
How dare you, sir?
Inject a wee bit of spice. Are you ready?
Good day, sir.
I am a distillery. I am one of the few distilleries founded in the 18th century and still in operation today.
Wait. 18th century means actually 1700s,
17
right?
blah, blah, yeah.
Yes.
Glenturret.
Oh my God.
Boof.
There he is.
Okay, well, continue. My only core release is a 12-year-old.
Ah.
Oops.
Okay. My distillery includes a given name. So the name of my distillery, part of it is also a given name.
What do you mean?
Aye.
A first name.
Wasn't John or
Like
George?
if I was Royal Brackla, Roy is in there, right?
Oh,
So,
please hold.
okay.
Well, that could be it. It could be Glenn. Come on, right, next one.
Could be.
Ben,
What a
Glenn,
wow.
Ben.
That's a shout.
Oh, aye.
You might associate my branding with an otter.
Oh, no. What's that one?
Is that a flora and fauna thing?
Yeah. What is that one?
It's a flora and fauna.
Ben
This I Am a
Rennis.
Distillery. You've gone in.
Ben Rennis.
I was just about to say that this I Am a Distillery is otter pish.
Okay. Bob, play it cool, big guy. You're the only one still in the game.
Yep.
I have a significant artifact from Glenallachie located inside me.
Do you have Glenallachie stills? Maybe.
I am part of the flora and fauna range.
Oh, boy.
My visitor centre is located on a busy route, and it was built back in the 1980s.
Don't know.
I am one of only 2 flora and faunas that is not a space cider.
Wait, is that you out, Gordo?
I think so.
There's one more clue.
Balls
Go on.
burst.
Go on then.
That's it.
Game's a bogey.
I am a distillery with a visitor centre, and I am a brand home for bells.
Oh. I've no idea. I've written down. I don't really know the flora and faunas. First thing I wrote down was Glenallachie.
I'm just going to keep going until you get it, Bob. My initials are BA.
Blair Athol.
Blair Athol.
Ah, you bastard. I used to...
Well. Oh, there you go then. Blair Athol. Is that right?
I knew it was something. I've been there all the time. I've seen it.
I've seen the wee otter. I've seen him.
It's so annoying.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I know a winner.
You had your chance, Rob.
I tried. I mean, I'm
Actually,
not
technically,
versed
did you say it? Did you say Blair Athol?
I'm not taking
not
that.
until
I'm not
after I
taking
did.
that.
Oh, well.
You both said it at the same time.
But he
Sorry.
did. He is the only one that said it in a valid way, whereas
Well, he's
you
not getting
already shot your shot.
He's not getting it.
Mm.
No, I'm not getting it.
No, you're not getting
marking
it.
it down.
Did he
in
put
the-
that on your spreadsheet?
All right.
No, I think you get that. I think you get
No,
it.
I don't want it.
The cheaters don't get prizes.
Take it. Well, I'll tell
I
you
don't
what you
want
can do. Tell you what you can do, Rob.
I wasn't
You
even
can bring-
close.
You can bring next week's. How about
Sure,
that?
I'll do next
Oh.
week. Yeah, absolutely.
Brilliant.
It's been a while actually.
Well,
That's,
Rob, while you're doing that,
Mhm.
can you be sure to bring a few bottles, a few specific bottles?
Yeah, I can do that.
Could you please bring a Glenmorangie? Could be a 10, could be a 12.
Oh.
Can you also
Answers,
bring?
actually.
Could you also bring? That's what's the chances of that?
Oh, yeah.
Could you also
Looking at
bring a Glenallachie Cask Strength?
Roy?
And while you're doing that, if you could bring a Chagi, a Ledaig 10. We're going to have a bit of fun next week on the next recording, where we're going to have a bit of blending fun.
Can't
So,
wait.
see, typically we'd say listener, right? But if you or the listener want to play along, we've got a fun way of you sampling blends that we've all come up with. If you can have all 3 of those bottles with you, or enough liquid from those bottles with you, you can play along, and we'll talk about
We're
that
going to
more.
share the recipes in advance then, right?
I think we can do it on the pod, and they can blend it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Because
We'll
they
get
can
that.
listen whenever you want.
Yeah, it's not a live
Exactly.
thing.
Oh.
Exactly.
They can pause it and go get
So-
their pins.
Exactly. So we won't give any more away on that, but next week's will be fun. Our next recording session will be fun. So by all means, if you want to dram along, do that. Until then, all's left to say is thank you all for listening and watching. We hope there was some value here. Martin, I hope we answered something to how to plan your trips. And we'll catch you all in the next one. Cheers.
Buy some nappies.
So my family are in the next room, then they can hear me clinking glasses and thinking, "Oh, that's the recording of his podcast." Oh, little do they know that was just
It's just a
first
fast.
episode. That
So you
was-
called the first one, wasn't it?
If Scotty was here, he'd be climbing a wall.
He'd be leaving to do the dog walk poo.
He'd be saying, Magnus has just coiled one out in the corner. I've got to go, boys. Magnus just pissed up a wall.
in my living room.
Right, cool. Should we go for a quick pee break? Come back.
Aye.
Bio break. Cracker gate.
Do you need to kill this?
Yeah.
Don't
I've
get
never
some
had
glasses
as
as
many
well,
glasses.
boys.
I was just going to say, I've never had as many glasses.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. The night team.
See you
See you
later.